An absolute phrase is a noun or a pronoun modified by a participle. Remember that verb that's being used as an adjective or a participle phrase, but it has no grammatical relation to the rest of the sentence. No grammatical relation to the rest of the sentence means that without this absolute phrase, the rest of the sentence could be a sentence all its own. So I could say manufacturers report fewer typewriter sales. It has a who, it has a what, a subject, and a predicate, both those parts. That means it's its own sentence, even if I didn't add this absolute phrase to it. Looking at this one, the race being over, the runners sat in the shade to cool down. This absolute phrase, the race being over, has this participle being, an ing verb, that's used as an adjective describing the race. The rest of the sentence, the runners sat in the shade to cool down, could be a sentence all on its own. It doesn't need that absolute phrase. So in exercise 2 here, we're going to underline each absolute phrase. The young writer, having sold her first story, her mentor decided to throw her a party. So having sold her first story is a participle phrase that describes the young writer. Her mentor decided to throw her a party is an a complete sentence. It could stand alone without that absolute phrase. The adventurer, having just climbed Mount Everest, his book became a bestseller. Having is an ing verb, but it describes adventurer here. So I'm going to underline this absolute phrase. The adventurer, having just climbed Mount Everest. And the rest of the sentence, his book became a bestseller, is a complete sentence, could stand alone on its own. Mike's salary was lower, but his take-home pay was higher than his old job, the insurance premium being paid by his new employer. Often those absolute phrases are at the beginning of sentences, but this one, it's at the end. Being paid is my ing verb there. Remember, participles are verbs often ending in ing or ed. So the insurance premium being paid by his new employer. The rest of the sentence, Mike's salary was lower, but his take-home pay was higher than his old job. That could be a sentence all by itself without the absolute phrase. And one more, we are constantly alert for forest fires, the weather being unusually dry. Being is my participle word here, verb ending in ing, and it's describing weather. So the weather being unusually dry is my absolute phrase. And the rest of the sentence, we are constantly alert for forest fires, could be its own sentence without the absolute phrase.